So without any further ado, I'd like everyone to give me a warm welcome to Dr. Kraig.
Thank you, Mike. And it is just great to see all you progressives here in Waukesha, because we need you. So I think that Mike is absolutely right. It was great to work with Mike. It was great to work with him when he was leading the Teachers Union of Milwaukee. And that grassroots organizations are critical because voluntary associations are the heart of any functioning democratic civil society. And so our side doesn't have all the money, but it needs to be individuals doing the most democratic thing imaginable, getting together and working on causes they believe in. That's going to change things and really help us realize the full promise of American life. And I think what we see right now in the direction of our state and society, quite frankly, is a real disconnect between our values, the way we think our society should be and what it could be, what is within our power to achieve, and the reality. And not just the reality, but the direction of things, with things like poverty and race-based economic and social disparities getting worse, not better. When we thought after the 1960s civil rights movement that there'd be an upward trajectory, and there hasn't been. Now, the problem is that cynicism is our biggest foe. You see, we're the ones who believe, progressives are the ones who believe that our great experiment in democracy, I mean, that's what the United States gave to the world over 200 years ago, has great promise that we can achieve anything we want to achieve. That we're the people who thought you could go to the moon, that you could eradicate poverty, that you could provide a decent, secure retirement, including health care. Everything that's been accomplished in the 20th century. Now we're in the grips of a movement that wants to return us, repeal the 20th century, in effect, which stands for all the things that were gained before. And so we built a society that had the most economic equality in the history of the world up until the 1970s, and now we're back to the 1920s and heading continually backwards, which would have stunned people 50 years ago to believe that. There really was this faith that things would keep getting better. And the cynicism is cynicism about democracy itself. Conservatism right now, or the current version or variant of it that has gained control, actually believes that our government is the enemy, when our government is nothing but our own way of governing ourselves. It's our democracy. So it's not King George, it's not the Redcoats, right? And so this notion somehow that I'm against the government, it means we're against ourselves. You can be against certain things the government's doing and want it to do different things, but the idea that government itself is the problem is, I think, a very destructive ideology. But here's the problem. When they run government poorly, take George Bush with Katrina being a classic example, it actually helps them. When Governor Walker privatizes the state's economic development, WEDEC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and that's a disaster, it discredits government. And what does that do? In elections, it leads to a situation where average voters who have less economic security are worried that they're going to lose that one job the family relies upon, don't believe that we can make it better. And so it's easy then to vote for conservatives. So in a very perverse sort of way, conservative kind of destruction of government, sabotage of government, actually aids the conservative movement. And so we have this problem where we need to focus on real issues, real things like people's need for health care, people's need for value-supporting jobs, people's desire to influence their own democracy and not be simply overshadowed and by money, right, by a few large corporations and wealthy people. That we want all those things, but we need to build people's faith in our own capacity to do these things in order to win. So I really think that if you look at the last election, you have a state that is just where economic anxiety is through the roof, and yet a lot of voters didn't feel that we could do better. And therefore it was easy to vote for the chip that at least Walker was credible on the tax cut everyone's going to get, even though it was $17. At least that was something concrete, right? And what is being offered by Democrats is not clear at all, and we haven't really cut through. We haven't had a compelling vision. It's about ideas, not just messages. But more importantly, because we haven't cut through the cynicism. And so we have a harder job, a more difficult road. Now, We did see in the referendums around the state, the minimum wage referendums, the badge care referendums, the move to amend referendums, that the public is with us on a lot of issues, but they're not connecting it to candidates. And part of the reason for that is that people don't really vote on issues per se, because most people don't study issues. What they do is they make judgments about whether a candidate or whether a party or whether an ideology represents them in some way and feels as they do and would do what they did if they were in the same situation. It's almost like hiring someone to go do a job for you that you're not going to do yourself. That's what representative democracy is, if you think about it. And so they just, there's an appeal that the conservative and ideology, and Walker is doubtless a very persuasive politician, which it has for people. And so what we need to do